Hey guys, how's it going? Today let's look at a few more retro devices that I own. And today we're going to look at some Motorola devices. And first off, I have the Motorola V70 from 2002. Now this might be the oldest phone that I own, I believe, 2002. Yeah, this has a really unique form factor, and this was actually kind of a luxury device when it came out. You can see that it's kind of old because it still has this antenna, which was by the mid 2000s, this was kind of done away with. But in the early 2000s, I guess we still had it. We have looks to be like a headphone jack right here. 3.5 millimeters maybe. Then you have the buttons on here. You have this button might be a back button. This button might be a forward button. Might be a menu button. Haven't checked yet. We'll have to see. Then the up and down right on the lid cover. What's unique about this device is that you can actually slide the cover and it's rotating like this. So you can slide it up and you can slide it either direction actually. So you can just slide it open like that, and this all lights up with an interesting backlight that's not backlit on the keys themselves, but it's rather just on the back of the keypad right here. See? So the individual keys are not backlit, but rather the entire keypad kind of just backlights like that. This is hang up, turn on, and they have another up and down. I suppose this so that this duplicating of buttons is so that you can control them either from the cover or when you open it like this. And then the call button and then the numpads. So yeah, this is running a proprietary OS, of course, because like smartphone OSs were not around in the early 2000s at all. So let's give it a try. Open it up. This is a grayscale display, so it's not going to be even a color display. And of course I have to insert a SIM. So yeah, unfortunately I can't really show you guys this thing in action. Too bad. I don't have a SIM card that will work with this device. Yep, it has a removable battery, of course. No SIM that will work with this device. Monochrome display right here. That's too bad. Okay, well, anyways, I can't really show you guys much, but all this is, you can just do emergency calls. So you can see this is how it would work. Emergency calls only. Yes, thank you. I can't even type very much on here before it gives me this error screen. I guess you can only call 911 from here. Yeah. So you can call 911 from here. That's pretty much the only thing you can really do. And this is, yeah, kind of the menu operations right here. So that's what it's for. And then this will be the navigations through the menu. I assume the menu is going to be something where you can only go up or down. So yeah, that's too bad you can't see it, but it is an interesting device. What's this button do? Don't know. Okay, this might be a back button, I would think. Could be a back button, because there's definitely no camera on this phone. It doesn't have any camera. They were not widespread on phones back then, so not even a VGA camera. But it is kind of a unique device because of the design and the form factor. The V70. Motorola did release a device very similar to this one later in 2008 called the Motorola Aura, but it's very, very difficult to get it because it's so expensive. It was actually like $2,000 or something like that when it came out. And on eBay, you can find it for maybe 500 or 600 bucks or even $800, right? But I don't want to spend that type of money for a device that'll probably just give me the screen, this insert screen, SIM screen when I boot it up, right? So there's pretty much no point in me spending that much money for something that's not even really going to work for me. At least this device is much cheaper, and you know, I didn't spend much money for it. But the Motorola Aura, it does look really cool. You can search it up on YouTube or Google, whatever. Very, very similar design form factor. Of course, it looks much more luxurious, much cooler, and it has the same kind of keypad that the Razr has. But yeah, it's really expensive, and it's too much money for me to spend on a device that might not even boot up correctly. It's probably just going to give me this insert SIM screen. But yeah, anyways, proprietary charger at the bottom, of course. A lot of phones had this charger back then. This is the, I want to say this is a similar kind of charger as the Sony Ericsson's, but they have this kind of, I don't even know what kind of charger to call it, but a lot of the Nokias and Sony Ericssons, a lot of the feature phones back in the early to mid 2000s had this kind of charger. But it was really, you know, you had to use this kind of charger to charge it. And Palm devices as well. I think Palm devices also use this kind of charger as well. The backlit keyboard is kind of cool. But again, the form factor is really cool. This swiveling form factor goes all 360 degrees. Might work just as a fidget device. Pretty much that's what it is now, since you can't really use it to call people. It's using 2G, so obviously no 3G or anything, so you can't use any data or anything like that. So you can really only use it on GSM networks, which are not really working in the US and Canada right now. Yeah, 2G is really hard to work with right now, so pretty much you can't really use this device. But it's a nice collector's piece, right? It's a good collector's piece for the collection. So anyways, guys, the Motorola V70, very cool design and stuff. Too bad we can't get it to actually work. All right, next up we have the Motorola Flipout from 2010, 2.8-inch display, 320 by 240, and it runs Android 2.1, so it's a very early version of Android. And yeah, this is a very interesting looking form factor, isn't it? I mean, it looks almost like an oversized Neptune Pine that I showed earlier, which is basically like a Android tablet, like a small mini tablet, or you can also call it like similar to a smartwatch. This is very similar, right? It's a square device and it runs Android. So you can see this has this Motorola Blur logo in the background. It actually tells you the megapixels right on the back here, 3.1 megapixels, so I don't even need to look it up. It says right here on the back here, it says so. Self-portrait mirror, because no selfies back then, so you needed a self-portrait mirror. And headphone jack right here. And this is, I guess, is a lock button or the on button. And you have the Android type of buttons right here. This is for the Android interface. You have the menu button, back button, home button. Back then, most phones actually had this as capacitive buttons on the phone face itself. So now on Android phones, you have it all within the UI, right? But back then, they were actually on the phone face. And then the cool thing about this phone is that you can actually flip it up like this, right? And then you have access to this tiny but backlit QWERTY keyboard, which you can use to type text with. I think this is a really cool implementation of a QWERTY keyboard, right? I haven't seen a QWERTY keyboard with a square form factor like this, and it's really kind of interesting. It has even a navigational button right here. Navigation, small, tiny navigational buttons. So that's interesting. And yeah, I can't get inside the interface because we need a SIM card. Just like with some of my other devices, I can't access them or use them because of the SIM card problem. So unfortunately, we can't really see Android 2.1 as much as we want to. What I gotta say is these capacitive buttons, they do give a little bit of haptic feedback once you touch them. So you do feel something, some kind of feedback here, but yeah, we can't really do much here. We can do emergency calls though. And this is the emergency call interface. That's all we can pretty much see from this. And yeah, it's too bad, but that's pretty much all we can do here. Yeah, back. Can we do navigational? We can even use the navigational buttons here to go through. That's pretty much it. FN, okay, search. Ooh, the buttons even give a little bit of haptic feedback as well. That's cool. But yeah, I just like the form factor of this device, just like the V70. Very cool form factor, but it's too bad that we can't really get inside the operating system. And all right. Anyways, yeah, that's the Motorola Flipout from 2010. A very, very cool form factor. I've not seen any phone or Android phone, any phone really, revisit this form factor again. It's just like, can you imagine calling someone on this thing, right? It's like this, imagine someone walking down the street, you're using a square tablet thing to call, right? And then if I want to type a text or something like that, or say I want to go on Facebook, bam, I just flip it open like that and then do my texting from here. That'd be so cool, right? I wouldn't mind if the Motorola or someone else remade this device using a modern operating system and modern specs and stuff, but have this form factor. Probably BlackBerry or Tickle, rather, because they own BlackBerry. They might be in the best position to make something like this, but man, I love this form factor, right? Why doesn't anyone else make something like this? It's so cool. Anyways, yeah, this is definitely one of the most pocketable phones I've ever seen. You can just even put it in your shirt pocket, right? It just fits right in. But yeah, this is a Motorola Flipout. Volume rockers right here. Forgot to show that. You can use this as even an MP3 player device, and it would be pretty suitable for that. Charges via micro USB, so that's sort of modern. It's not USB-C, but I mean, everyone still has micro USB cables lying around, right? It's not like the proprietary old school cables, you know, you have to charge the really old phones with that kind of cable. No, right? Micro USB, still people have those lying around the house. Yeah, that's a Motorola Flipout from 2010. All right, and lastly, I have the Motorola Razr V8, otherwise known as the Motorola Razr 2. This is the successor to the widely popular Motorola Razr V3. This came out in 2007, so just going with the specs, it's a 2.2-inch screen on the inside, 240 by 320 resolution. It is an improvement over the original Razr, because you can see that the original Razr had a really wide profile right here. This one's a bit slimmer and a little bit taller vertically as well. It has a 2-megapixel camera, which, you know, doesn't seem like a lot by today's standards, but it is an improvement over the original, which had a 0.3 megapixel VGA camera. So you got to understand this is 2007, so a 2-megapixel camera was pretty much par for the course back then. This was the luxury edition that I got, the V8 luxury edition. So that's why I came with this faux leather kind of feel on the back here, and this black and gold kind of design, which is really cool. And removable battery, of course, just like a lot of the phones back then. And we have, looks like volume rockers, but we'll have to take a look. And I don't know what this button does. Over here we have what also looks like volume rockers. So I guess I'll have to open it up and take a look, because they both look like volume rockers to me. And then the side here we have a micro USB charging port, and I know a lot of you still keep micro USB cables around at home. And let's open it up, and we get the Motorola style keypad here. A lot of people might be familiar with this keypad because it's probably one of the most stylish keypads that we've seen, or numpads that we've seen from phones in the mid-2000s. This is a very thin keypad, so this membrane is very thin, and it's Motorola's signature style, right? They released a lot of phones back then with this keypad style, and it's still pretty cool today, honestly. Like, it's really tactile, really nice to press on, and just still looks pretty cool, like this laser etching. And how you have the call, the hang up, also the power button, music player button. I think this is back button. Then we have the the menu kind of controls right here, the navigation controls, and the OK button in the middle. So yeah, that's it. Let's try turning it on. All right, this is the Motorola Razr 2. I haven't actually owned a Razr before. Back in the mid-2000s, I had a Samsung. So I know a lot of people had a Motorola Razr back then. I was not one of them, but hello, Moto. Oh yes, I can actually boot in. Nice. A lot of the devices I've tried today, the Sony Ericsson and the other Motorola's, they didn't boot up today because you have to insert a SIM card. So I'm glad this Razr 2 actually takes us into the operating system, which is nice. This, of course, is a custom operating system. It was a feature phone after all. So it runs Linux or some variation of Linux with Java-based, what's it called? Moto Magics. Yeah, that's the name of the operating system, is Moto Magics, which is Motorola's custom operating system at the time. So let's see, you can check the main menu, and you can check your recent calls and contacts, right? Create contact, office, tools. You have some PIM stuff here. You have a file manager. You can play music and sounds. Ooh. Can I play some ringtones? Let's look at some ringtones. Oh, look at this music player. So let's check to see if this is a volume button, or if this is a volume button. Okay, this is the volume button. This is the loudest it gets. All right. That's an interesting ringtone. Okay. I'm not sure what was the most popular Motorola ringtone back in the day, but you can check some of these. So yeah, this is the volume button right here, volume rockers. The speakers are okay for the time. They're not, obviously not super loud or anything. They were okay for the time. Harmony, Moonlight, ooh, there's a lot of nice preloaded ringtones. What I like about it is that today, if you buy an Android or Android phone, or if you buy an iPhone, the ringtones are really short. Back then, you can actually load any type of MIDI as your ringtone. So these MIDIs, or even MP3s, like this is an MP3 file, right? So you can actually use an MP3 as your ringtone. So it's nice that this actually came preloaded with that stuff back then. And this is a Motorola Razr music player. So see the interface right here. Go to the next track. Right? Yep. Okay. Artists, composers, yeah. Let's see. Stop. Options. Let's see what options are. We can do manage, properties, send to, apply to. You can pretty much take any music file and make it your ringtone from here. You can also send it with MMS or email or Bluetooth, which this thing also had Bluetooth. Although Bluetooth back in the day, back in the mid-2000s, was really only limited to headsets back then. So Bluetooth speakers weren't really popular until the 2010s. And same with Bluetooth headphones. They weren't really popular until the 2010s. Until we had at least Bluetooth 3, I would like to say. 3 or 4. All right. Internet connection. I had no idea this had an internet connection. Interesting. I had no idea. I thought, yeah, this didn't come with 3G. This came with Edge. And Edge is really 2G plus. So I'm guessing the internet option here was for 2G plus, aka Edge. And that would have been extremely slow, actually. For those of you who ever lived during the Edge era, where that was the fastest connection you could get on your phone. Jeez, okay, it wasn't very good. Okay, I don't like this one. Anyways, that's a few of the ringtones. All right, let's go back. Pictures, do we have any? Okay, we have a preloaded picture on here. Okay, this is kind of weird. I don't know why someone would put this picture on here. Interesting. Someone left a picture of a girl on this phone, and it's definitely not anyone I know, so I don't know why they have this. So it's slideshow, okay. Graphics and wallpapers. Okay, let's look at some preloaded wallpapers. I think that might have been, I don't know what that was. Okay, I got this phone from China, so just saying, someone might have used this phone before, but I had no idea. It was new, actually. The battery was new when I put it in. So I have no idea how that picture got on there. Okay, these are GIF files, but these are animated GIFs. Okay, cool. This is the picture viewer here. So you can look at some really cool animated GIFs from the mid-2000s. This Times Square. Rose petal. All right, fish. Ooh, we can do full screen here. There we go. Wow. Oh, they're decent wallpapers, I guess. It's nice that they preloaded them here. Okay. Let's see if we can probably set one of them as our wallpaper. Manage, save as, zoom and pan. We can even zoom and pan from here. Wow, okay. Really primitive zooming and panning. Of course, no touchscreen. Okay, let's go back. So that was some pictures, videos. We have, what, sunshine video? Let's see what this is. It's like a short 7-second video. Okay, I don't know why that was preloaded on there. What's this one? Okay, 1-minute video. That's better. Look at everything you can do with your Motorola Razr. Of course, if you close the phone, you actually have the secondary display on here, which can show you the time, and it has the wallpaper that you chose. So this is a nice feature as well, right? Because it's kind of akin to these days, we have ambient displays on our phones, but for a while, Android and iPhones didn't have. Actually, my iPhone still doesn't have an ambient display. So basically, when I set it down on the table, the screen just turns black. It doesn't show anything. But it's nice that phones back then had the secondary display, like the Razr, for example, that shows you the time. So it kind of acts almost like a watch, right? That's kind of cool. You open it up. And what else can we do here? Let's see. Web access. So again, I don't think this has Wi-Fi. So this would have to be over Edge. And this is probably a web browser. So there was no like real mobile browsers back then. It was all really, really like what Steve Jobs said, baby browsers, right? They basically would just take any browser and just display it all in text. They wouldn't be rich text at all. It would just be like plain text, and it would display like no pictures, no videos. It would just be plain text. So I'm guessing this would be a really primitive web browser. Like a lot of the feature phones back then, they had web browsers, but it was something you would never ever use, really. It's the emails, right? Multimedia. Yeah, we just saw some music and photos. So we have a video camera and camera here. This is the camera. So if I have my V70 here. Again, this is a 2 megapixel camera. So keep in mind, this is what we had back then. Video mode, auto timer, multi-shot, 5 seconds. It did have some features, I guess. Video mode, okay, so it can actually take video. We can zoom in on that a little bit. Up to 4 times, 8 times. Ooh, we can zoom up to 8 times. Quite impressive. Okay, but yeah, this is reminds me of my camera back in the day. The picture. That's why I didn't take many pictures back then. Okay, you had cameras that weren't very good, but they could at least be serviceable if you really needed to take pictures or video of something. And you know, back then maybe you had something like you had an event happen to you, or God forbid you go to your friend's wedding and you have nothing else but your phone, and this was the only phone that you had back then because this is what existed back then. Then I guess you would use this really crappy camera to take video. So it is what it is. Backup, well, there's some games on here. Sudoku's on here. Football. Okay, of course this is a Java game. On mobile phones back then were Java games. Tournament. What's this? Friendly, okay. This would be Brazil, Argentina. Football. Actually, this is soccer, so this would be an international. Yeah, international football. Not American football. Press fire. What's fire? Whoops. Fire. What would fire be? Whoops. Anyways, yeah, a lot of the games on feature phones back then were actually Java games. So they looked a lot like games you would play on the internet back then that were Java applets. And this is the type of games that we have back then. So it's not like games didn't exist back then. They were just really primitive. Goal kick, okay. And you had to play with a T9. A T9 keypad back then. Free kick, all right. Oh, anyways, that's football, I guess. We have Sudoku. All right, we saw some games. We have a voice recorder. A lot of things had voice recorders back then. It's nice that we do have so many devices back then that could record things for posterity in case you need to revisit them years later. Bluetooth, mostly for headsets, like I said, back then. That's settings. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much the Motorola Razr. Actually, let me just try to write an email message using the T9 just for old time's sake. Okay. All right, so for those of you who grew up in the smartphone age, be glad that you never had to use a T9 keyboard because, man, this was so frustrating to type. So first of all, I got to change the text mode to ABC mode because I don't know, it defaults to word mode, and I never used that before. I'm not used to it. So be something like this. You got to scroll through your characters, because each numpad, you know, each key can only support 3 characters, and you do this, and then you have to wait, right? I'm typing. Yeah, see how slow this is? Because there's no smartphone interface, no on-screen virtual keyboard back then. You gotta wait. If it's the same, if your letter's on the same one as the same key, you gotta wait. So A, T, and then I think I gotta cycle through this as well. So, oh man, okay, I'm confused. Insert picture. You can insert new picture, voice note, sound, web address, contact info. So yeah, this is why we didn't text as much back then. Yeah, this is really annoying and cumbersome. So that's the T9. You gotta like, oh my god, it's so hard to use. And yet, okay, that's a symbol, I guess. Number is just, okay, so this would be T. Number, you gotta cycle through like that, right? Yeah, that's how you do it. Now I remember. Yeah, so each of these you gotta press like this. If you press 2, this will be A, B, C, and then 2. So this will be D, E, F, 3. So you gotta cycle through this every time, and that's how slow it is, but that's why we didn't text as much back then, right? But I know that some people, like, they texted a lot back then on a Razr or something like that, and like they would be like speed demons on this T9, right? They would text like so fast, right? I don't know. I can't do that. Takes me a while. I do remember I texted on a T9 for maybe 3 years, but yeah, back then I didn't send very much SMSs, and we didn't have Facebook apps and stuff like that. So pretty much the only time we used this was text messages or maybe email, but I never use this for email either, just for text messages. Do you wish to save? Yes, exit. 1970, awesome. That's Unix start time. And of course, back then, if you ever wanted to call someone, you would type it in here, and then you would call them, and then of course you would hang up on them by flipping it down, and that's just so badass, isn't it? Anyways, guys, yeah, V70, the Flipout, and of course the Razr2. So that's my Motorola devices I want to show you guys today. These two couldn't get them working, but I'm glad at least the Razr2 works. So thank you, Razr2, for letting me in and showing me. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching.